Hey, what's up? We're back with the Honda Navi. We're going to do an oil change today. Manufacturer's recommendation is about 600 miles for the first oil change. We were thinking about doing it around 200 or so. Chris decided that this would probably be the best interval to do this first oil change. We're going to take a quick look at the tools and parts that we're going to need for this oil change. We're going to need a ratchet, a socket extension. Then we have a 12mm socket, and we have a 17mm socket. Then we're going to replace the factory drain plug with this gold plug. This actually has a magnetic tip, and any pieces of metal that get into the oil as a result of engine wear, this little oil plug is going to catch those for us. We have a drain pan, which we're going to drain the oil into. Then we have our funnel, and then we have this Pro Honda 10W30 4-stroke motorcycle oil, a can of WD-40. We're going to spray the oil filter with WD-40 to clean it off before we put it back in. Before we do an oil change, we want to make sure that the oil is nice and warm. The warmer it is, the looser it gets. So we've started it up, and we're going to let this run at idle for about 2 minutes. All right, so we've got the bike warmed up. We pulled it onto some cardboard so we catch any drips. And the first thing we're going to do, now that it's warmed up, so we're going to pull out the dipstick and set it aside. And now we're ready to start draining the oil. So we've got our drain pan placed under the oil drain plug. We are just behind the kickstand, and that right there is our oil drain plug. So we're going to take this out, set it aside, let all the oil drain into the pan. Oh, I got it loose. Ouch! That's hot. Just pull that. This is where you need those. So we've very gracefully broken the drain plug nut free, and basically you just pull it out, set it aside. We're actually going to be putting a different drain plug in anyway. I like to let it sit until that thing is really, maybe a couple of small drips. Let's get it all out of there. It's been probably less than 2 minutes at this point, and we've got a kind of slow but steady drip. So we'll give it another minute or two. Alright, so it's been probably about 5 minutes. We've been letting this drain. We're down to just a very slow drip. So I think we are good to go at this point. So what we're going to do next is grab this new gold plug, drain plug with the magnetic end on it. We're just going to put that right back where the original drain plug came from. Next step is we're going to come around to the other side, and we're going to work on that oil filter. Oil filter plug is just behind the center stand here. Use a 17mm socket to loosen this up. Right. So we're going to very gracefully loosen this oil filter. Oops. Now these oil filters have a little spring. We'll look at it when we pull this out. But they're kind of spring loaded.
I can feel it.
So you'll feel a bit of resistance. If you feel that resistance is okay, just keep using the wrench.
Oh, there it goes.
Alright, there we go. We get the spring
and the filter.
And the plug. And there's the actual filter. Spraying this is WD-40 kind of giving it a good rinse. I'm trying to get any of the bits that are trapped in this filter to just fall out. Looks like we're pretty successful there. Looks pretty clean.
Okay. All right.
And there's no sense doing an oil change without getting dirty. Alright, so we're just inserting that filter back in, putting the spring with the plug back in. Give it a couple turns and get that socket on there. Tighten it back up. Our last step is going to be to take our oil and our funnel, come back over. And so where the dipstick came out of is right here. We're just going to put that funnel right into where the dipstick came out of. This is a 1 quart or 946 milliliters. The Navi capacity is 800 milliliters. So if you look on the side here, we're figuring we're going to go from 946 minus 800 is going to leave us at 146. So we're going to stop about halfway between that 100 and 200 line. Make sure the funnel is nice and tucked in there. Pour a little bit in, let it settle. We're pouring in a little bit at a time, and then we're looking on the side of the bottle there, right in between that 100 and 200 millimeter mark. Give it a few seconds to let it settle in there, and then we'll put the dipstick in there and see where we are. Wipe that dipstick off, put it in there, then unthread it. See how much oil is in there. Alright, as we're looking for where the edge of my fingernail is, that's about the full mark. So we're going to make sure that we get oil right up to there, and it looks like that's where we are right now, is oil is right where it needs to be. I'm going to come down to the oil filter side. I'm just going to wipe right around the bottom of that oil filter plug. And what I'm doing there is just making sure that when this bike has been running for a couple minutes, make sure we don't feel any oil under there. If we feel any oil, we'll just tighten that down a bit more. I'm going to do the same thing with the drain plug, the oil drain plug on this side. So there's our gold plug. I'm going to just wipe around it, make sure that any residual oil is cleaned off, and then we'll check again after the bike's run for a little bit and come under there and make sure we don't feel any wet, any oil leaking out. So we're going to start it up, let it run for a couple minutes. So once we've had it running for a minute or two to let this oil get nice and warm, we'll go under there and we'll check this, make sure we don't have any leaks. I'm going to try and, without burning myself, I'm going to try and make sure this oil drain plug, oh, it seems pretty dry there. We'll check the oil filter side. So oil filter, nice and dry. So we're going to pull this dipstick out again. We'll give it a wipe off, put it back in and see what we measure. So we're seeing all oil all the way up there to the end of my fingernail. All right. So there you go, a nice quick oil change on a Navi. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment.